The war is not slowing down. If anything, it is accelerating. That Trump went to the latest G7 meeting and he basically told his partner nations like France, India, Germany, Britain, that US is going to be part of the war, and they are going to be going after nuclear sites at in Iran. And he just wanted to get everybody know that, hey, especially Britain, to be on standby should they need any assistance. So now that said, things are going absolutely crazy in the Middle East. There is no respite for Iran. They're getting pounded mercilessly by Israeli and stealth United States. So United States is also doing its bit to help Israel, and it is going to only get a lot worse before it actually gets better. Now that said, we are not a political show. We are not a political Telegram channel or Discord channel or YouTube channel. We are strictly trading. That too, Forex trading, financial trading. Within financial trading, we care about Forex and Forex alone and nothing else. So that's it. So now what happens? Anytime there is geopolitical turmoil like we have with Iran and Israel, that affects the markets, and especially the Forex markets in particular, because especially in the Middle East, when there is the most important commodity, oil, is getting disrupted when with this war, and especially the Strait of Hormuz. And if that gets blocked, things get out of whack. They get really, really panicky, and that is what we are suspecting that may happen. So now, U.S. is about to get into the war, and yesterday there was another development that I don't think was covered by any news media. And if you guys were to pay attention, that especially the army general of Pakistan was invited to White House. So now you may know that Pakistan is on the eastern border of Iran. So they already got the western border covered. Now they are going to Pakistan for help to land their planes and to take off from their bases or from Pakistani bases from the east, so they can cover both east and west of Iran. So that is something that we need to pay really, really close attention to as to how it's going to unfold and how it's going to then may escalate from that point. So I'm keeping a very close eye on it, and I give you guys update on a daily basis. And next thing we're going to do is how it's affecting the Forex markets. So what we're looking here is the DXY chart. This is 1 hour chart, and I'll show you the chart that we look at every day now. Now that is a 4 hour chart. I'm going to zoom in a little bit, and I'm going to move this chart, and I'm going to move this chart like a bit more, and I am going to zoom in a bit more out there. That's it. So now I drew that chart yesterday, and let's see. Okay. All right. Okay, so now we are looking at this chart, and what you can see is the downtrend that started on the last 9th of last month, around 9th or 10th, that I keep showing you guys every day. That yesterday we were like right about here underneath the downtrend, and then now, as I told you guys yesterday, that I am expecting to. Okay, so now I am expecting for that downtrend to break, and that's exactly what happened. So now we broke that downtrend. So let me zoom in a little bit. It's going to actually show better on a 1 hour chart. Okay, if I zoom in further. So let me make that into an hour chart. Okay, an hour chart on here, and then it's broke. So it broke right here decisively, went up. Now it's coming to down, test it here again. I'm expecting, I would prefer it to come here to test that trend line, to see if that trend line has now become into a support, because earlier it was a resistance, and then move up from here. See here, if I'll zoom out a little bit, every time it touched that trend line, it broke down. Touch the trend line, it broke down. Touch the trend line, it broke down. Now I'm expecting, now it's already broken out of this trend line. Let me remove this drawing so we can see this a bit more clearly. So it's touched the trend line. Now this trend line is going to act, or should act theoretically, like a support. Now there's another thing. See, these charts, once you analyze enough charts, they start talking to you. And this chart is also right now talking to me, and it's making inverse head and shoulder. So let me do this chart inversely. Let's look at it in an inverse manner. So I'm going to remove this little trend line, and I'm going to remove this RSI indicator so we can look at it a bit more objectively right here. So I'm going to inverse the chart. Okay, I'm going to make it upside down kind of thing. Okay, so now this chart is upside down. So now this chart is telling me something very, very significant. So now if the price is going lower, that means it's actually going higher because the chart is upside down. So if you can see, say 97, 98, 99, 100. So now it's upside down. So the prices are going, if the bars are moving lower, that means it's going higher. I'm sure you guys understand. So what I see here is a very, very interesting pattern, which is one of my favorite chart patterns that I use a lot in my analysis, is an head and shoulders pattern. And that's exactly what it's in the middle of. So it made the head and shoulder, it broke the neckline. Okay, so you guys can see it here. It broke the neckline here, came down a little bit, tested the neckline back, and now it's on its way down. Now, once it goes above 99.20 or 99.40, or let's put a horizontal line here, it's a line in the sand for this particular chart. If I put that line here, because this line has been acting like a support, so every time it touches this line, it bounces, touches this, bounces, touches this, bounces. So that's our line in sand that this price must break. So if this price breaks this line in sand, which is around 99.35, it came down to 99.15, 99.16 today. Now it's already broken the neckline of the head and shoulder. Now it needs to break this particular horizontal line, which has been acting like a resistance. Remember, you guys are looking at this chart upside down. So now this line is acting like a resistance. So once it breaks out of this resistance, like if it goes like here, so let's make it another one from here, go like this, retest it, boom. And then that's your next target around 100. So now once it breaks out of 100, we'll talk about that then. But right now, that's the price action we are looking at. And it's looking so far so good. And if something changes, guys, we're going to change our mind and we're going to trade accordingly. But right now, it is working out exactly how I predicted yesterday, and exactly what I expected it to do yesterday. And why? Because both the technicals and the fundamentals are aligning at this point. Why? Because US dollar is the safe haven when there is turmoil in the marketplace. And you say that, hey guys, hey Vineet, like why didn't it happen before last month when there was a whole this Trump tariff war? And I've told you guys enough times that because of Trump tariff tantrums, all the trade came down to its knees. It came down, halted like anything. Everything stopped, and all those U.S. payments that were made were just sitting idle in the bank accounts of all these countries, or companies in these supplier countries like China and EU. So what they did, they had their local commitments that they need to fulfill, and for that they had to dump the dollars because there was a lot of demand for the local currency because they were running the factories. They have to keep the lights on. So now what do? You dump dollar and you get your currency. So there's a lot of demand for the local currency. But once these trade deals are done, once these tariffs are finalized, guys, watch out. It is going to be absolute mayhem in the US demand. So there's going to be huge demand for the US dollar once these trades are sorted. So, okay, so now let's look at some of the other charts that we look at on a daily basis. Let me make this full. Let me make this back in its original form so it's not upside down anymore. So now let's look at EUR USD. Okay, guys, so we are expecting EUR USD to go lower. Okay, so now it's the same thing. So what we were looking at earlier was DXY. Now we are looking at EUR USD. So EUR USD is the biggest component or biggest part of the DXY index. So now we are looking at, but here, unlike DXY, it has not broken the trend line. So it still has a bit to go for it to actually break the trend line. So let's see how far we have to go before it actually break the trend line here. Here we go. So we got another 57 pips that we're looking at before it actually breaks the trend line. So we're going to keep a close eye on this particular one and see when it breaks a trend line. We all will tell you what to do next or what's expected out of it next. But we are still about 50 pips away. Earlier in the day, we came down and we were only, I would say, 30 odd pips away before we actually broke this trend line. But right now we are about 50 pips away, which I think we should break, if not today, tomorrow, or day after. But if that changes and if it goes above this line here, see right now, why do you think it's happening? Because it's making this is the high point. If from here, if I see he's making this is a low here, from this low, this is a higher low. Okay, guys. So let me actually draw a thing. So here's a low. Okay, there's a high. So the next low is higher than the previous low. But here, the next high that is making is lower than the previous high. Next low is making is lower than the previous low. Again, next high is lower than the previous high. Next low is lower than the previous low. So we don't know if this is a high or if it's going to go higher. But if it turns around and goes and touches this trend line, that means it's making another lower low. So, okay, so that means the trend has changed. The trend is now going the downwards direction, and the confirmation is when it actually breaks this trend line. So it's making lower highs, lower lows, lower highs, lower lows, trend line break. We go in, make lots of pips. That's how we do things, guys. So it's getting really, really interesting. It's getting beautiful. It is getting exciting. And first thing we need to do is make sure we keep a tab on the war between Israel and Iran and see where things are and how things are moving there. And that is very, very, very important. All right, so let's look at our next one, GBP USD. Okay, so now there was a big news today where I think there was a 20, nothing happened really. They were expecting a rate, no, they were not expecting a rate cut. They didn't get a rate cut. So here is the same thing again. If I zoom a little bit here, let me make it a 4-hour chart. Okay. If I zoom in, and that's from 9. So same story, guys. So here, if I look from the 9th, from the last run it actually made from the last month. So let's draw a trend line. It has decisively broken the trend line and is now going lower because it's now, again, it did not go as high as some of its counterparts like GBPU or sorry, EU or USD or the Dixie itself. So now what it's doing is it's making higher highs, higher lows, higher highs, higher lows, higher highs, higher lows, higher highs, higher lows by very little margin, higher high, it's actually a higher highs, now lower lows, lower highs, lower lows. So this already turned, it's already broken the trend line. And even if I wanted to have this trend line to look like this, it's broken even this trend line. So this has decisively broken down. Now is the time to place your trades. So any weakness. So now once it breaks this here, so let me get rid of just this one here. Okay, and now once it breaks, there's a lot of congestion here. So once it breaks down, see right now it's a little too late for the trade. Once it breaks this line, I would go in. See, once it broke down this one, this was like a short shot trade where it touched and bounced back because you have a lot of support here in this area. So it took off of that support, it bounced back. Now it bounced back down, or it breaks it through. Now that support is going to become resistance, and that's another. And once it rejects it and goes further down, that's when you want to go in for the next leg down. And it is a really good trade in the making. So I would really encourage you guys to follow all the USD based pairs, because there are a lot of good trades that are actually in the making right now as we speak. So I'm keeping a very, very close eye on this, and I'll keep you guys posted. So the other thing is, guys, like till yesterday, I was coming live at about 3 p.m. USD. Now, going forward, we're going to be coming live on 2 p.m. USD, because I don't want it to get too late for our friends out east and in Australia and on Hong Kong. It gets a little too late. So I just wanted to keep that in mind and be mindful of that. So just to let you guys know that that's what's going to be happening going forward. All right. So now we looked at Dixie, we looked at EUR USD, we looked at British Pound, GBP USD. So let's look at our next one, USD CAD. And this is a pair that does, okay. It's breaking down nicely. Okay, so now its rally started again at the same time, because US fell down broadly. It had a broad failure, and then anything that was paired with USD rose, and USD fell against everything else. So now this rally also started back in the same time frame that the DXY started falling. For USD CAD, if it's going down, that means US is buying less and less Canadian dollars. So now this trend line, this trend broke right here. Okay, so let's again draw the path here. Here is making a low, higher, lower highs, lower lows, lower highs, lower lows, lower high. It's actually still in process of making a high, and this is going to make a higher high than the previous one. So it's already done that, and it's already broken this. So these are clear waters, guys. So if you want to get into this trade and start, so if you, for example, wanted to, buy, say, 0.10 lots. 0.10 lot is, say, $10,000. So if you wanted to buy 0.1 lot, I would start buying 0.2 here, and every 20, 30 pips, I would keep adding to that position. So USD CAD is already in the buy zone. We can actually start taking a trade right here, right now. So again, you see there is a theme that is developing, that US dollar is in the process of reversing. Unless something dramatic happens, I think it will reverse and it will accelerate from here. And I think our eventual initial stop is around par like 100, and then after the war